evening and welcome to the evening news for today, Wednesday, November 30, 2022. I am Jemima Holmes. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's take a look at some of the lead stories tonight. With increased arrivals expected, government MULLS second terminal for CJIA. Houses damaged in WISMAR mudslide. 19-year-old PILLION rider killed in BUXTON accident. 3,000 acres of rice at CWC affected by disease. And ICJ to rule on Venezuela's objections in border controversy case next year, says TODD. Now for the news in detail. Government is considering building a second terminal at the CJIA International Airport, which has over the past few years undergone a massive expansion amid the growing interest in Guyana from investors and tourists alike. Here is Gerald Bryan with our lead story tonight.
On Tuesday, President Dr. Irfan Ali was the featured speaker at the Guyana Manufacturing and Services Association GMSA Awards dinner. During his feature address, President Ali spoke about the CJIA International Airport and the importance of upgrading it.
The truth is, we should have had a better airport. But we know what happened in the last government. The entire project was messed up. As I speak to you tonight, we are already contemplating a Terminal 2 because you have to get it. Those of you who travel and come in understand what I'm talking about. We have to do it to boost what we're doing here.
The president noted that Guyana is slowly but surely getting back to the visitor arrival numbers that existed before 2019 when the COVID-19 pandemic hit.
At the end of this year, we'll be getting past our pre-pandemic arrivals, record-breaking. By 2025, with the projections, we'll be creeping past 1 million arrivals. Imagine, just imagine. British Airways coming first quarter next year. Advanced discussions going on with many other airlines. This is the real country we're living in.
Back in June, China Harbor Engineering Company, CHEC, had completed extended works that were agreed upon with the government at CJIA. US $9 million in works, including an extension of the boarding corridor and installation of 2 additional boarding bridges, were done. Works also included a modern airport facade across the departure terminal, showcasing the golden arrowhead and the One Guyana logo. Gerald Bryan, The Evening News.
Vano Manichan joins us now to report that the Commission of Inquiry into the March 2020 elections continued today with PBPC's Charles Ramson taking the stand to testify that he was actively prevented from serving a request for a recount to the then Region 4 returning officer, Clermont Mingo, who had declared the results for the region without completing the verification process. Here is more.
During his testimony Wednesday morning, Charles Ramson testified that after the then returning officer Clermont Mingo declared the results for Region 4, the country's largest voting district, he attempted to serve a notice for recount onto him.
When I went to serve the letter, what is very important that stands out as well is that all of the offices had steel doors. There were steel doors, but their locks, the handles were removed from the exterior of the door. So there was no way of turning a handle to get into the door. So, and then I rapped on every single door for a good 10 minutes or so, and no one answered. No door opened.
According to Ramson, Mingo eventually emerged hours later but was being escorted out of the building by police officers.
So I ran with the letter, which I still had in my possession, to serve him. And then when we got through when we opened the door, moving into one of the sections, but still a little way away from him, police officers stopped me once again and prevented me from proceeding. The letter that I had in my physical possession, I took a picture of it and I sent it via WhatsApp to the chairman of GCOM, to Mr. Lowenfield, who was the CEO of GCOM, and also Mr. Mingo, who was returning officer for GCOM. I also sent a message identifying myself, and I have screenshots of those messages on WhatsApp.
Did any of these officials ever acknowledge receipt of your message?
No.
Ramson further revealed that he left Ashman's building, which was being used as the Region 4 office during that election, and when he returned the following day, he was initially prevented from entering the building and even threatened by coalition supporters.
Someone say, we could kill you.
That's correct. That's correct.
In the presence of a police sergeant?
Multiple police officers.
Did any one of them do anything in relation?
No.
That one should be CR10, Chairman.
In fact, there was no support from the police in relation to calming the situation down. So the entire area was cordoned off. So no one had access to the area. Eventually, when I was let in to that section, there were a few other persons with me or that were there.
According to Ramson, he was eventually allowed to serve a request for recount to a representative of Mingo just 7 minutes before the deadline. Subsequently, Mingo rejected the request on the grounds that he refuses to acknowledge Ramson as a counting agent, despite having previously engaged him. Reporting for the Evening News, Fanu Manikchand.
Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony disclosed today that there are about 7,000 persons living with HIV in the country, and he is encouraging them to ensure they take all necessary steps to protect themselves not just from COVID-19, but from other ailments. Find out more in this report.
We have approximately 7,000 or so persons who are HIV positive in Guyana. Therefore, all of these persons should ensure that they get their booster shots, so that they can fight off whatever other infections.
That was Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony speaking about HIV/AIDS in the country in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. He noted that at the government level, significant investments have been made to assist this vulnerable segment of society. He made reference to the use of PrEP as he encouraged interested persons to explore its usage.
There are basically two types of PrEP that we offer. It can be continuous PrEP, or it can also be event-driven PrEP. And so, based on whatever your needs are, you discuss that with the doctor at the clinic, and they would be able to advise you on the most appropriate approach. So PrEP right now is available to everyone who would like to get PrEP.
Dr. Anthony also reminded that the self-testing for HIV has been introduced.
If it's positive, then you can come in, verify it at one of our testing sites, and get linked to getting treatment. Because if it's positive, we'll want to put you on treatment as quickly as possible.
In addition, there are still some 56 testing sites across the country, along with 30 treatment centers. Meanwhile, in observance of World AIDS Day this year, the government is organizing an HIV/STI conference for December 4th at the Arthur Chung Conference Center, which will be opened to the public.
This would give people an update on HIV treatment in various aspects of HIV treatment. So whether it's the new antiretrovirals that are out to be used on patients, how they work, what regimens you should have. That particular lecture would be done by an expert from the Mayo Clinic who is coming in to do that particular lecture. We also have experts who will be talking on PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, the latest techniques. So apart from people using tablets, there's also injectables. So you can take an injection, it lasts for 3 months, and so You don't have to drink any tablets in between. And there are also newer forms of PrEP injections that are now coming on the market, some of which can last as long as 6 months, and they're even working on one that can go for a year.
2 houses have been damaged in a mudslide which occurred at around 10 hours today at Poker Street, WISMAR, Linden, Region 10. A utility pole has also been damaged, causing electricity disruption in the area. The mudslide was reportedly triggered by the excavation works of a private contractor in the area. The excavator operator has since gone missing. It was initially suspected that he was buried under the debris, but after authorities combed the area, they came to the conclusion that the man had fled the scene. There are no reported casualties, and investigations are ongoing. A 19-year-old lad is now dead following an accident that occurred at around 12:30 hours on Tuesday along the Buxton Public Road, East Coast, Demerara. Dead is Trion Guppy, a laborer with Nabi Construction and late resident of Enterprise, East Coast, Demerara. He was the pillion rider on motorcycle CK7430, which was being driven by a 22-year-old ExxonMobil worker of Friendship, East Coast, Demerara at the time of the accident. Reports are that motorcar PWW 6816, driven by a 43-year-old Buxton resident, was proceeding east along the northern drive lane when the driver allegedly put on his left side indicator to pull north onto the parapet. When he did so, the driver said he felt an impact to the left side front of his vehicle and thereafter observed 2 men on the northern parapet with injuries about their bodies. The EMT was summoned and both victims were transported to the Georgetown Public Hospital. Guppy died while receiving medical attention, but the motorcyclist has been admitted a patient at that medical institution suffering from head injuries. A breathalyzer test was conducted on the motorcar driver, but no trace of alcohol was found. He is in custody assisting with the ongoing investigation. Coming up, Bushlot murder, great niece confesses to involvement in crime, and Essequibo pensioner murder, granddaughter admitted to psych ward. Do stay with us. More news ahead.
Optic offers great patient care that is tailored for my entire family.
At Optic, a wide selection of affordable optical frames and optical services are available to fit your budget.
At Optic, my family is provided with comprehensive eye examination and access to their ophthalmology services, all under one roof.
Optic takes pride in delivering exceptional customer service and a unique experience to you, our customers.
Optic Vision Care is a company that is Guyanese born and grown that will help you take care of your precious eyes.
Did you know that the government has funded the 2022 budget through oil revenues? Yes. Money earned from oil production offshore is being used to support projects in Guyana, including social programs like the increase of public assistance and old age pension, as well as cash grants to support the vulnerable members of society.
Try our virtual sports and win big with so much matches to choose from. Betting starts at $100. Play for your chance to win. Log on to www.superbet.gy or visit any one of our agents to place your bets. Terms and conditions apply. Have fun and play responsibly. Must be 18 and over to play.
It's November already and soon it will be Christmas. So we at John Lewis Styles are giving away one Amazon Echo show every week in November and every day in December. Stream music and videos, make video calls and control smart devices, alarms, reminders and lots more. Every $5,000 spent gives you a chance to win when you shop for clothing, footwear, watches, fragrances, handbags, luggage and accessories. So visit us on Waterloo Street. John Lewis Styles,
Premier. Premier insurance coverage for less. Stay safe.
For bid, performance, retention, advanced mobilisation or customs bonds, bond with us. Fuel your success. Call 223 0840 or visit premierinsurance.gy. Premier Insurance. Premier insurance coverage.
Welcome back. You're watching the evening news. The 37-year-old great-niece of murdered Sumintra Saw has confessed to plotting to rob the 85-year-old woman on her birthday. The evening news understands that the housewife, who was taken into custody as police commenced their investigation into the robbery and murder of the Bushlot West Coast Berbice pensioner, has detailed in her confession the plan to rob her aunt. On Monday, the body of Saw was found lying motionless in a pool of blood on her bed after her home was invaded. Police have said the woman's great-niece claimed that she was awakened by a male who was in her room and who had a knife to her throat as he demanded money. She also claimed that she was pulled out of her bedroom and saw a second stranger in the house. She also told police that she was placed in a chair and bound to it with a piece of sling. However, under intense interrogation, the woman reportedly confessed to being part of the plan to rob her aunt of cash she had in the house. In her confession, the woman admitted that she had not been tied up, but in fact had left the door open for her aunt's neighbor to enter the house to carry out the robbery. She said she showed him the bag, which contained some $350,000 and documents, and the neighbor went into the bedroom and started beating the woman with an object. In fact, she admitted to witnessing the man killing her aunt. She said in her confession statement that the killer is a 48-year-old neighbor who would normally visit the home. Police are currently on the hunt for the suspect, identified as Mohammed Ramzan Shahid. When contacted, Regional Commander Assistant Commissioner Curly Simon said that before the end of the week, police would be seeking legal advice from the Director of Public Prosecutions. Meanwhile, the 22-year-old teacher who allegedly murdered her grandmother has been admitted as a patient in the psychiatric ward of the Georgetown Public Hospital. Angelica Agata Gamel, 75, of Lot 168 Charity Housing Scheme, Essequibo Coast, was murdered on Sunday at around 4 hours at her home. Gamel had lived alone in a flat concrete house and would be visited occasionally by her granddaughter, who had recently given birth and was said to be suffering from postpartum depression. On Saturday night at about 20 hours, the suspect, with her 1-month-old baby daughter, visited the elderly woman to spend the night. However, one of Gamel's neighbors told the investigators that she heard loud screams coming from the elderly woman's house at around 4 hours on Sunday, and the screaming lasted for about 15 minutes. Shortly after, the neighbor said the 22-year-old suspect came to her house with the naked baby in her hands. The police were then summoned, and upon inspection of the house, ranks discovered Gamel's body, clad in a white nightdress and black tights, drenched in what was suspected to be blood, lying face up on a floor mat in the kitchen. One large wound was seen behind the neck and one to the right side temple. Also, 2 large wounds were seen on the back of the elderly woman's head. All of the elderly woman's hair had been shaved from her head and placed on the kitchen floor. A post-mortem is slated to be conducted on Gamel's body tomorrow. Meanwhile, the suspect is currently under police guard, pending evaluation and treatment. We now tell you that rice farmers at Crabwood Creek in Region 6 are seeking the intervention of the Agriculture Ministry after an estimated 3,000 acres of paddy were affected by disease. Our Berbice correspondent Andrew Carmichael reports that some farmers were able to reap from the affected acreage, but the yield was extremely low.
Some 4,000 acres are under rice cultivation at Crabwood Creek, and the farmers say about 3,000 acres have been affected by the disease. Production from the affected areas range between 0 and 10 bags per acre, the farmers have reported. The region averaged over 30 bags per acre for the last crop. The farmers on Tuesday met with officials from the Guyana Rice Development Board, GRDB, at number 56 Village. According to the rice farmers, numbering more than 20, the poor yield has made it impossible for them to go back to the next crop. Jailal Singh, who cultivates 50 acres of rice, explained that they were invited to meet with a GRDB representative. He says They are hoping that they will be able to get some form of assistance from the government, as losses for some farmers runs into millions. Many of them are indebted to millers, which they would have credited fertilizer and other chemicals from. Additionally, they have contractual obligations to financing institutions.
Some of us even buy tractor on terms, and we can't meet that demand because we didn't make any money. I personally plant 50 acres of rice, and we cut in like 10 bags per acre, and that's below par. Before we just get 25 to 30 bags per acre. So we lost a lot of money. We didn't even clear half and half.
Jainarayan Chandradio says he's lost about 70 acres.
We like if the government could assist us with some help back to go back to the crop, because we owe the millers, all the millers, and we owe the bank, we owe for machinery. We can't even fill the installment as much as we right now. From since the flood relief time to now, we're facing this is 2 disasters, not me, and I didn't have any help until today.
Some of the farmers say the paddy was destroyed by blasts. Prakash Prasad says he cultivated 15 acres.
I didn't get to cut none during the disease, and the expense was nearly $2 million for me, and I didn't have anything like to go back, and I take loan from the bank.
President of the Rice Producers Association of Guyana, Lika Rambert, says there have been instances of low yield at the Burma Development Rice Research Station, as well as the station at Maibikuri in the Blackbush Polder. He noted that those same stations also had some very good yields. According to Rambridge, research is currently being done to see why this may have occurred, while noting that climate change could be one factor. Rambert says rice could have been affected by fungus, which could have been as a result of poor husbandry. He says farmers should not just have their workers attend to their crop, but must be actively involved in the crop. The RPA president said there has not been an official report from the Crabwood Creek rice farmers to the association. Andrew Carmichael, The Evening News.
The Rupununi Chamber of Commerce and Industry says it is aware of a number of challenges facing small Brazilian businesses seeking to set up operations in LATAM, and the organization is calling on the government to intervene with the aim of making the investment climate in Region 9 friendlier. Andrew Carmichael joins us again with this story.
President of the Rupununi Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Daniel Gaji, has called for a meeting between government and the private sector on challenges Brazilian investors face in coming to Guyana, particularly in Region 9, Upper Takatu, Essequibo. During a recent interview with the Evening News, Gaji detailed some of the challenges facing small groups of investors from Brazil.
What I heard today troubled me in terms of the lengthy process that an investor has to go through to invest in Guyana. So what we will need to do maybe is to start the process in Boa Vista, get them interested in certain areas there, and then feed them with the kind of information that each investor wants to get involved in. Instead of painting a picture of a general area of investment, and then you break it down. So if you have somebody wanting to invest in agro-processing sector, then we put them onto the Guyana Marketing Corporation or whatever the case is, and then we walk them through the process.
One of the main goals of the Rupununi Chamber, Gaji says, is to get persons in neighboring Brazil to invest at the LATAM industrial site. Investment, he noted, can be in the areas of manufacturing, agro-processing, agriculture, and tourism.
And I heard today things like you got to get NIS compliance, you got to get compliance and compliance. I am coming to the country for the first time to invest. There's no need for a compliance. You know, so we have to relook the policy governing foreign investors who are not necessarily coming to do large-scale investment, but micro, small, medium-size as a starting point. And you give them, if you give them, let's say, maybe a year, 2-3 years to get your production going, and then you start, instituting all those areas of compliance and NIS and GRA and packaging and whatever else is needed.
For Evening News, Andrew Carmichael.
Following several days of hearings over a week ago, during which submissions were heard from both Guyana and Venezuela, the International Court of Justice is expected to deliver its decision on Venezuela's preliminary objections during the first half of 2023. Vanu Manikchand tells us more.
This was revealed by Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation TODD while he was updating the National Assembly on the recent hearings at the World Court.
The court will deliberate on the issue over the coming months. A decision is expected by spring of 2023.
In its preliminary objections, Venezuela is contending that the legal challenge should have been brought by the United Kingdom and not Guyana, since the 1899 arbitral award was signed between Venezuela and the then Great Britain. Hence, the substantive border controversy case should not be heard.
Guyana argued that the United Kingdom is not indispensable because it has no legal interests that would be affected by a judgment on the validity of the arbitral award on the 3rd of October 1899, which fixed the boundary between British Guyana and Venezuela, or any interests in the boundary itself. Such interests having terminated in May of 1966 upon Guyana's independence.
Guyana has approached the International Court of Justice seeking a final and binding ruling that the 1899 arbitral award, which demarcates the boundaries between Guyana and Venezuela, is legal. This is after the Spanish-speaking nation had laid claim to more than 2/3 of the country's landmass and part of its EEZ offshore. Nevertheless, the Foreign Affairs Minister told the National Assembly on Wednesday that Guyana is confident of the ICJ ruling to proceed with the substantive case.
Guyana is confident that its arguments will prevail and that the court will reject Venezuela's objections and advance the case to the merits phase.
Reporting for the Evening News, Vanu Manikchand.
And now for a look at the bridge reports.
The Demerara Harbor Bridge is scheduled to be closed on Thursday, December 1st at noon for a period of 1.5 hours. Meanwhile, the Berbice River Bridge will close to vehicular traffic on Thursday, December 1st at 11:05 hours for a period of 1.5 hours.
Guyanese indigenous group to perform at 2022 FIFA World Cup, and President Ali optimistic of Guyana at 2026 Football World Cup. Details of these stories and more in this podcast, sponsored by MacCorp, coming up on the other side of the break.
Did you know that when you leave your property unoccupied and unmanaged, it deteriorates much faster than you can imagine? Then before you know it, much of your hard-earned investment is wasted. At Hand in Hand Trust Corporation, property management is our business. Whether you travel for long periods, live overseas, or have several properties that require managing, let us at Hand in Hand Trust Corporation take care of this for you. Your property is safe with us. Hand in Hand Trust Corporation Incorporated, a member of the Hand in Hand Group of Companies.
Moving, lifting, or bending, whatever the job, we at Sylvie's Variety Store have the right tools to make it happen. Pallet jacks and hand trucks for bonds and industrial sites, easy pickup and convenient maneuvers. Chain hoist from Roughneck and Northern Industrial, the perfect solution to lifting heavy objects. And then there's the 12-ton and 16-ton hydraulic pipe benders from 1/2 to 2 inch. We also stock the shop press machine from Northern Industrial. Sylvie's Variety Store stocks the tools to make it happen.